All right, welcome back for another round of para rowing strength training. Kingsley is back with me today, and we've got a great session. No particular focus. We're going to kind of roll through some different core, shoulder, and back exercises. So you are going to need a band, all right? And then you will also need, this one's a little crazy today, a hammer. All right, so go find something in your toolbox, and we're gonna have a little bit of fun today. No one will be harmed in the filming of this exercise. So we're gonna start with a warm-up, all right? Just nice big arm circles. So go ahead and reach those hands up overhead, and we're gonna elevate and reach up, all right? Reach forward and protract, and then reach down and depress, and back and retract. So we're doing all of our nice shoulder movements in a big, exaggerated arm circle, all right? So I want you to think about just melding those different shoulder blade movements together here as we move through the arm circles. So we've been talking a lot about length in our sessions. So here it's starting off right with that length. So every part of that arm circle, I want you to be reaching as far as you can. So as we reach down, we're depressing because we're trying to, get our hands down towards the ground. As we reach back, we're retracting because we're reaching back as far as we can. And then as we reach up, we want to touch the sky. Let's do one more in this direction. It should feel kind of nice, right? We're warming up and we're getting the shoulder blades moving, but we're also moving that shoulder in a controlled range. And let's switch directions. We're going to come back, same idea. Reach back and then down. In front, the shoulder blades slide away from each other and then back up. So a little bit of mobility here for the shoulder joint itself. Everything should just feel like it's loosening up here. We're hitting the edges of our full range of motion. All right, two more in this direction. And as we're doing this, right, last week we talked a little bit about like shoulder blades pinching behind you, not necessarily being a stable position, depending on what you're doing. So again, just think about our 4 shoulder blade positions here and where we're gonna wanna be for different exercises. And one more reach to the ground and rest. All right, grab your bands, all right? We're gonna do a little reach over with some pull apart action in between. So hands come out in front of you about shoulder distance apart, can be a little wider, all right? And we're gonna start with a pull apart. So reach that band so that it comes right across your chest, wrists stay straight, and then we're gonna come back to center. Now reach up and overhead, pull apart, band makes a little hat for you. Reach back to center, not quite so much because you're gonna have to come all the way back behind you now. Feel that beautiful stretch across your chest, all right? And then once you're back behind you, pull apart back there as well. And we're gonna reverse that. So it's reach up and overhead, all right? Depress those shoulders, wear your band like a hat, bring it back to center, and then reach back out in front of you and pull apart across the chest. We're gonna do about 3 more cycles of that. So it's up and pull, up, reach back, enjoy the stretch. You can kind of pause if you find a little sticky spot that you wanna hang out in for a second, and then reach all the way down and pull apart behind you. All right, now Kingsley and I were just talking before we started here. Everyone, yep, keep going with your movements. We were talking a little bit about external rotation, right? And how that's kind of a hard movement just because of the nature of all of the things that we do that are forward. But also if you're in a wheelchair, you're spinning the wheels and the shoulder is actually rolling forward as well. So this is a really nice warm up just to get started with a little bit of the external rotation as we bring it back and around. You should actually feel that that shoulder socket is kind of traveling behind you a little bit, all right? And it's also a really nice chest opener, which should just get us in the mind frame of not slouching and keeping those nice open collarbones that we all hear so much about. Let's do one more. Kingsley's giving me eyes, guys. Oh, we're only in the warm-up. Good. Wrists are nice and strong. Enjoy it as you come back behind you. Try to keep that spine nice and tall so we're not compensating by shuffling forward or backward. Last time up, squeeze across, tap that head with the band, and out in front, and last time across the chest. All right, we're gonna use our band for some sideline work next, so feel free to anchor that. We're gonna start with only needing one side of the band, okay? I'm gonna anchor a little higher today, but this is also fine, like around a chair leg or something like that. We will be lying down for that section, all right? Now for our next part, we're gonna do a little bit of core work, okay? And I'm gonna recommend that you do this against some sort of surface, all right? So like a wall or a chair, just so that you have a little catch-all here, a safety net if you need it, okay? And so what we're gonna do is we've been doing our curl up, right? We're all familiar with that chest lift now, okay? We're basically gonna do that same idea, but we're gonna do it behind us instead from a seated position. So hold on to the legs in front of you and start by rotating those shoulders back, slightly depressed, slightly protracted, all right? And then you're gonna hold on, and I want you to think about sinking from your top abs, all right, and push back so that you're in that curled position. So we're in that hollow body position, all right? And you can take it back as far as you think you can go, right? We're thinking about creating a C shape in those abdominals. And then once you're at that low point, you're gonna use the abs, try to use the arms as little as you need to bring yourself back up to that nice open chest position, all right? So it's curl back, right? Really initiate from the, right in that sternal area, your xiphoid process, okay? And then once you're at that low point, draw yourself back up with the abs to that nice tall seated position, all right? We're gonna do about 5 more of these, all right? Really thinking about the initiation happening at the vertebra, right? You're pushing back with those abs so hard that it causes that curvature in that middle back. And then draw back up, okay? So the focus is really on, we're controlling with the abs on the way back. You're making space, like you're pulling your abs away from someone who's trying to punch you, right? Has anyone seen Cinderella? There's the rat, and he pulls his belly away from that hot drop of water, okay? So pull your belly away like someone is gonna drop a little hot teacup on your stomach, okay? And then draw back up to seated. Let's do one more, all right? Pull yourself away, and while we're here, can everyone drop those shoulders into a slight depression? Let's make sure we're not rounding the shoulders too much here. And draw back up, okay? This one's an easy one to just kind of move through, so you really want to think about actively engaging. All right, now we're going to take the left arm and wrap them around both knees, okay? And secure yourself there. And we're going to do that same idea. You can start in a slight rotation, okay? And so we're going to have that same idea. You're going to curl back, all right? But now we're going to add a little rotation with that right arm, okay? Rotate to wherever you feel comfortable. And then you're gonna draw back in. Keep the C curve the whole time. So we're curling away. We're holding that position as we rotate open. Keep the chest open. And then we're gonna bring it back to center. All right, every time you rotate open, I always think about kind of the top of a pepper grinder, okay? So we're keeping the bottom of the rib cage closed as we open that chest. And then we're wringing out to get that last little bit of pepper. Let's do 3 more in this direction. Thinking about cinching that waist in a little tighter every time. Last one. And draw it back to center, and then draw yourself all the way back up. You can take a little break here if you need, all right? And we're gonna head to the other side. Same idea, right hand and right arm are gonna support the knees here, all right? Start by just rotating slightly, okay? And now, as we exhale, initiate from those abs, push the mid-back back, all right? Create that C curve, and then we're gonna open up with that left hand. You can play with the breathing here. So the breath, the exhale, should really come on the part that you want maximal contraction, okay? And so as you, I would say, inhale on the way out, and then as you exhale, really think about the left oblique, or the oblique that is on your side that's opening, closing back up so that everything kind of squares off, all right? We've just got 3 more in this direction. Right? And if you really work that exhale, so think about forcing out like you're blowing out cake candles, all right? It's your birthday. So as you're blowing that air out, I want you to think about creating less space between the muscle fibers so that they can engage even tighter. All right, very nice. All right, now we're gonna keep our wall here. I'm gonna have you scoot back so that you're against the wall, okay? And we are going to start with cervical protraction and retraction, okay? So I want you to think about your neck being nice and long here. Shoulders are slightly depressed, okay? And all you're gonna do is you're gonna jut your chin forward, all right? Keep it on a horizontal surface. And then you're gonna draw the chin back like you're making a dainty double chin, okay? And I want you to create as much length as you can between the top of the spine and the base of the skull here, okay? So that double chin, you're thinking about almost creating traction to get that length, okay? And then we're gonna do it again. So jut the chin forward, right? Think this is how we spend most of our day. And now resist that urge and create that length. Double chin like you're sending a Snapchat to your best friend, all right? Let's do 3 more. Chin comes out, right? We're isolating from the cervical spine, right around the neck. And then draw it back, thinking length through the back of the head, right? So this is one of those movements that when coaches say like, raise your chin or like eyes up, right? It's not necessarily that they want you to crank your head up, okay? A better cue might be lengthen the back of your neck, right? Or bring your chin back so that it's in line with your spine, okay? I personally, obviously, just like to think about a double chin. Let's do 1 more. Last retraction here. And then I want you to keep this retraction, right? Keep that length in the back of the neck. And we're gonna take our arms out to the sides, all right? So that you're creating a W with your arms. I'm gonna show you this from the front just real quick. So W with your arms, okay? And from here, we're gonna do a little snow angel slide, okay? The key to this one is I want you to feel, right, the shoulder blades are heavy against the back surface here, because you're only going as high as you can keep those shoulder blades flat. So that's about it for me, all right? If I go much higher, the shoulder blades start to rotate forward and I lose them on the back. And then once you've reached that high point, pull back down so that you're back in that W. And then we're gonna slide up and then pull down, all right? This is a classic rotator cuff strengthening exercise. You'll see this in rehab for partial tears, okay? And so what we're working here is the stabilization muscle in the back of the shoulder, okay? So you should be fired up from kind of the top ridge of that scapula all the way down to almost that mid-tricep area. Kingsley, you feeling it yet?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I do.
Absolutely. That's what I like to hear. This is one of those deceptive ones. It doesn't seem like it should be that hard, but it's pretty challenging. All right. So on the way up, we're focusing on the shoulder blades staying heavy against the wall. And then on the way down, I want you to think about pulling from the side body, right? Like you're shortening a little string between the elbow and that bottom rib. Let's do 2 more. Last one here. See if you can get those hands back. That's that external rotation. And go ahead and rest there. All right, you can come away from the wall, okay? And we're gonna do a little work with our hammer, okay? So this is gonna be focusing on strengthening our flexors and extenders in the wrist, okay? A lot of times when those muscles start to have issues, we get pain up in the elbow because they are innervated by the same nerve complexes, okay? So we are going to use the hammer to strengthen some of those movements, all right? And hopefully avoid elbow pain, okay? So we are gonna start with pronation and supination, okay? So let's start by just having the hammer in our hand, straight up, okay? Elbow is gonna be in towards the side at a 90-degree angle, okay? And then from here, all you're gonna do is you're gonna rotate so that your palm is facing down towards the ground. And then you're going to rotate so that your palm is facing up towards the sky, all right? Now the key here is I want the elbow to stay in towards the side, okay? So we're usually working on our shoulders and I'm usually telling you not to rotate your elbow, but here we have full permission to do so, okay? So what's actually happening, right, is that the forearm bones are switching positions, okay? So we're thinking the wrist is on the side of the thumb, okay? It's actually switching from the outside to the inside. And just in case anyone's curious, when the palm is facing down, we're pronated. And when the palm is facing up, we're supinated. And if you ever want an easy way to remember that, just think, how would you eat soup, right? Hopefully like this and not like this. So soup, supinated. There you go. There's your anatomy lesson for the day. Let's do 2 more, right? Just working healthy rotation in that elbow and wrist complex. Last one. Nice work. All right, for this next one, you want to make sure you have enough space to let your hammer hang down. All right, and we're going to do a radial deviation. Okay, so for this one, your radius is on the inside, right? So it's towards your thumb. That's the bone on the inside of your hand here. And so your thumb is going to be facing outwards, okay? And all you're going to do is you're going to pull that hammer up towards your elbow pit, okay? So from the side, here's what it looks like, okay? So basically, you're flexing at the wrist, okay, to bring that hammer up almost parallel to the ground, all right? And you should feel this in your muscles on the inside of the elbow here, okay? So you should feel that start to fire up in the muscle that connects down to your thumb. Woo! And, you know, we don't use this muscle very much, so you might start feeling it pretty quickly. I know I am. So let's do 3 more. And let's just make sure everything else is staying nice and stable so shoulder blades aren't moving. And now we're gonna do that same idea, but it's gonna be an ulnar deviation. So you're gonna switch your grip so that your forefingers are wrapped around, okay? And your thumb is now in the back, okay? And now from here, same idea, we're gonna draw the hammer up, but we're going the opposite direction. So instead of initiating the movement with the thumb, right? You can think about initiating this with your pinky, So you're actually flexing the wrist by pulling the pinky up towards the side of that forearm, okay? And now ulnar deviation, right? We can think that we're doing this on the opposite side, okay? The ulna is your bone that leads down towards the side of your pinky on your hand, okay? And so we should be feeling the forearm muscles start to fire up on the opposite side that we just worked. Right? But again, think about the flexion coming at the wrist. So the elbow actually stays long, the shoulder girdle is staying stable, and we're just flexing a little bit at the wrist joint. Last one, and bring it down. All right, opposite side. We're gonna start with our pronations and supinations. Now, if you find that your hammer is a little lighter, you can certainly do this out in a straight line so that your elbow is long. My hammer is very heavy, right? So I'm gonna do it like this. So again, elbow stays stable, right? You wanna picture that if you were holding your Sunday Times, right? Does anyone read the newspaper anymore? Not online? I don't know. So if you were holding your beach towel as you were heading to the beach, right? It wouldn't slip out from underneath that elbow. But we're also not jamming it into our rib cage, right? You wanna think elbow right underneath the shoulder. A little bit of tension in those front abs so that we're not flaring the rib cage, right? And we're all imbalanced humans. And so just take note which side might be a little easier. For me, supination and pronation is much easier on my left side, right? Just because I'm right-handed and this is a little bit more of a technical fine motor movement. So just something to note and see which side might need a little more love in certain movements. Let's do two more. Focusing on the rotation, switching spots, and not letting that hammer just drop you. And let's take it into our radial deviations. So again, we're gonna start with our thumb in front, okay? Forefingers are wrapped around the back. And we are thinking about initiating the flexion from that little thumb joint, all right, to bring the hammer up. And then we're gonna draw it back down in a nice straight line. So these are good ones if you've ever heard of like tennis elbow or golfer's elbow. A lot of those issues arise from these, the median nerve not doing the correct things. So we're just trying to make sure all of those muscles are functioning properly. We have the correct extension and flexion capabilities at that wrist, right? And this is another nice one. We spend a lot of time typing or texting. And so our hands are kind of in this like T-Rex position a lot of times. And so doing something in a different plane is just nice to make sure that we're not like allowing that movement pattern to take over and be all that we do. Let's do one more. Yeah, who needs forearm curls, right? All right, now we're gonna switch our grip. So this time, forefingers curl around the front, all right? Like you're given marching orders, all right? And now we're doing our flexion towards the posterior side, right? You're thinking you're gonna take that hammer and you're reaching it up to give yourself a little tap on the elbow. Don't hit your funny bone though. You probably won't enjoy it. Thinking about initiating from that pinky to help pull the joint closer together so the joints of the wrist are compressing to bring the side of the hand and the forearm into closer proximity. And everyone just checking on those shoulders for me. I know I just started rotating forward just a little bit to make sure that we're still keeping those nice open collarbones. And we'll do two more. And go ahead and set your hammer down so you're done with that bad boy for the time being. All right. If you haven't anchored your band yet, go ahead and do so because we are going to head into a little bit of side lying work, okay? So come on down to your mat, all right? Get positioned comfortably. Now again, if you want a little more support, use that bottom hand to anchor you on the ground, or you can always hold on to something like a couch leg or whatever you want, right? If you're feeling stable, you can rest your head or you can have it down on your bicep. So pick whichever position is feeling most comfortable for you. Try to make sure those shoulders are stacked, all right? So we're not leaning away or curling forward. We're trying to create that nice open line, all right? And then hips stacked to some extent. But again, you can also use that foam roller underneath that top leg to give yourself a little bit of extra stability, okay? So get set up in whatever position is feeling comfortable for you. And we are going to start with what Kingsley just specifically requested, which is external rotation, all right? And then a little bit of overhead movement. So go ahead and make a 90-degree angle at your elbow, all right? Elbow is resting right on top of that hip, okay? Fist is facing straight out towards your screen here, okay? And we are going to externally rotate. So you're thinking open a door, all right? But the elbow doesn't move yet. And now from here, we're going to press up, all right, from that anchor point. Now the anchor point is going to want to draw you down, right? So try to make sure the fist stays right over the shoulder. And now we're going to draw back down, and then we internally rotate to close that door. Yep. So it's keep the 90 degrees, little cactus arms, overhead press, right? Like you've won something. Let's go team. And then draw back down like you're closing a lid. Let's do about 5 more of these, all right? Nice, slow, and controlled, okay? And now what I want you to think about is where is the shoulder blade in space, okay? So if we're too retracted, right, then we're gonna be a little bit hunchy in this movement, okay? But if we're too protracted, okay, when we come out like this, we're not gonna be able to get the fist back very far, okay? So really think about shelving that shoulder blade right into your back pocket. And we're going for precision on this one. So I want you to think, really hold the 90-degree angle as you come up. Punch straight up, that fist is right over the shoulder, and then draw back down, keeping the wrist stable. So thinking about what is stable and what is mobile during this exercise, right? So during that first external rotation, the elbow and shoulder are mobile. Then we're gonna hold the shoulder joint as we extend out. Elbow is mobile here as well. We're always stabilizing from the core. And we're gonna do one more. Last one here. Let the band help guide you into that external rotation. Nice strong fist out to the sky, and then draw back down. Nice work. All right, let that hand go nice and long. Now from here, if you want a little extra resistance, remember you can always choke up on your band a little bit or move away from your anchor point. And we're just gonna do a lateral lift. So we're just lifting up and then lowering back down. Now I like my fist facing my hip for this one, okay? But you can also do it with your thumb facing up. And you can actually, alternate and try it because you'll get a slightly different effect on the deltoid depending on which orientation you're in. So you can even do pinky up, right? But with pinky up, you're more likely to over elevate. So just make sure that you're keeping that shoulder blade shelved throughout the entire movement. So this is technically abduction. So we are moving the shoulder away from the midline, right? And so we are primarily working the deltoids. So you should feel this right in the top of the shoulder, right? Where you would rip your shirt if you were the Incredible Hulk. And we're gonna do 3 more, smooth and controlled, thinking even time on the way up and even time on the way down. We're not letting that band snap us down towards the hip. Last one, and rest. Whew, we'll be starting to burn out a little bit. All right, so for this next one, I like to call it a book opener, okay? So give yourself a little more slack if you have it. This is a little bit more of a mobility exercise. So you can bring those palms together, all right? And then we're gonna come up and over, and I want you to think about just rotating a little bit, okay? So we're just opening that mid back a little bit, and then we're closing it back up, all right? Now, obviously the shoulder is still working because that band is still gonna wanna pull you down. So I want you to really picture a nice straight rainbow, right? From your fingertips to where you draw across to, all right? And you can rotate as much or as little as you want, right? You'll still get benefit if you stop right above your shoulder, right? You're still gonna get that rotation. So add in the rotation to the degree that you're comfortable, all right? And this one, again, you know you're always gonna get stabilizing work, but it should feel nice. You should feel like you're getting a little bit of a stretch at that end range of motion and releasing a little bit of tension that we're probably carrying in that mid back and opening the chest a little bit in the bargain. Let's do one more. And rest. All right, go ahead and flip over. We're gonna do the same thing on the opposite side. All right, so find your comfortable position, all right? Remember, bottom hand can be under the head, under the neck, extending out, or out in front of you for extra balance, all right? Top knee can go right on top of a foam roller so you have something to lean into a little bit. And we're gonna start with our external rotation, okay? So remember, elbows a 90-degree angle, tucked right on top of that hip. And from here, we externally rotate. We make our 90-degree angle facing parallel to a wall. And then from here, we're gonna overhead press. And then draw the elbow back down. And then close the lid, all right? So it's externally rotate. The shoulder blade swivels a little bit towards the armpit. Punch forward. The shoulder protracts a little bit. And then draw back down and close that lid. I need a little more tension, I think. I might regret that later. All right. Now, something worth noting is one of the reasons we do so much banded exercise here is that we're trying to recruit those small muscle groups, okay? So your muscles are really smart, okay? And they basically recruit in order of small to large, okay? So if you pick up a pencil, okay, it's not like you're engaging your pecs and your lats and all of these other crazy muscles. You're engaging the hand, right, the muscles in your hand and your wrist. Maybe your forearm to help grip. Now, if you pick up a barbell or a dumbbell, you're going to bypass a lot of those smaller muscles because it's too much stimulus. Those small muscles basically are like, no, thank you. That is too much. I'm going to need to call in for some help, okay? So with this banded exercise, what we can do is we can take the tension and make it light so that we can get those smaller muscle groups without engaging the prime movers. And let's do 2 more. I stopped counting, I'm not gonna lie. And remember, if you ever have instabilities or you feel like one side is a little stronger than the other, you can add in a few more reps on that side in lieu of doing even amounts on either side. All right, Let's bring it down for our lateral raises, okay? Again, palm can go facing towards the hip for this one as we raise up. But you also might want to try thumb facing up. So give a nice thumbs up or hitchhike your way to somewhere, to the living room, I guess, maybe to the kitchen. You need a little snack. Again, by rotating, you're just going to hit a slightly different part of that deltoid, but you should be feeling this all in that upper shoulder, working to abduct or move that arm away from the center of the body. Let's do 4 more here. Are we remembering to breathe? Remember, exhale during the harder part of the exercise. So if that is on the way up for you, exhale there. If you feel like it's actually more challenging to resist the band, you can flip that breathing pattern and exhale on the way down. Last one. And release. All right, we've got our little book openers. So again, you might want to give yourself just a little bit more slack for this one. The focus is on the mobility rather than the strength. Hands come together like you're making a book. And then you're going to take the hand up and over, giving yourself a little bit of rotation. The head can rest down for this one, or it can stay lifted, right? But you might find that if you let the head rest, it gives you slightly more stability, and you might be able to get that rotation to go just a little bit further. Move nice and purposefully in these. Again, check and make sure that we're drawing the fingertips in a straight line across the body. So you're thinking about them traveling across approximately where like a heart rate monitor would attach. And then right in front, you're subdividing the body at that same point. Let's do one more. And release that down and take a little break. We're going to move to an exercise on our backs here, all right? So we are going to need both ends of the band. So go ahead and adjust here so that you have 2 handles or 2 ends. Boy, I must have really been working hard. That band is tight in there. All right, so 2 ends to your band, more or less even. All right, now in this position, I will warn you guys, it is really easy to lose your band. So please hold on tightly and do not smack yourself in the face with them. All right, come on down to your backs, all right? Foam roller can go right underneath those knees if you have it, or a pillow, just to make sure that we're not locking the knee joint out, okay? And we're gonna start with a bicep curl, okay? Now with this little bit of a higher anchor point, I want you to think about starting with your hands as an extension of those bands, okay? So my hands are a little bit higher because I want to say from the end of my anchor point all the way down to my shoulder is one long line, okay? I'm going to keep my elbows there as I curl in, okay? So I'm keeping my elbows high throughout this movement, okay? Now I like bicep curls on the floor because the biggest tendency with bicep curls that I find, a negative tendency, is to internally rotate, okay? So the same way we wanted to keep the scapula heavy when we were seated up against our surface, I want you to think about keeping those scapula heavy against the mat, especially as you curl in. So think fists to the top of the shoulders so that you can keep a nice wide stance in that upper body. And just for fun, since we're bringing lots of concepts together today, think about a little bit of cervical retraction. So it doesn't have to be a big double chin, but think about just pressing the back, those little nodes in the back of your head. Think about pressing them down into the mat to lengthen the back of the neck a little bit, right? And now we can just kind of put some of those stabilizing concepts into practice here. So the bicep is the focus of the exercise. So that's the muscle that's working. The elbow is the mobile joint. So that's the joint that we're moving around. And everything else, right? So the scapula are a little bit retracted and a little bit depressed to stabilize against the mat. And the cervical spine is slightly retracted to stabilize against the mat, right? It's a lot to think about, but bicep curls aren't that complicated, so we can think about some of those other things. Let's do one more. All right, take a quick break, release the tension in the front of the arm because we are adding on, okay? So for this next one, it requires a little bit of thought, okay? So what you're gonna do is we're adding on to that movement. So we start with our bicep curl, just like we normally did, okay? Fists are facing, right? Your palms are facing towards your face. Now what you're gonna do is we're gonna move this to an overhead press. So you have to flip your palms so they're facing the sky now, all right? Or supinate, we just learned about this. And from here, we're gonna overhead press. Now we draw back down towards the eyes, pronate, so now fists are facing our face, and then release the bicep curl, right? If you do it with a little bit of speed, it'll probably just come naturally, okay? Because that's the way your body wants to move, okay? It's really hard to overhead press in that pronated position, okay? But again, we're thinking about, now we're connecting some of these concepts, okay? So as we're bringing the bicep curl in, we flip the forearms and wrists, and then overhead press while stabilizing the elbow. So now we have both a mobile elbow, but also a stable elbow in this part of the exercise. It's all very complicated. So let's focus on the breath for the next 3, right? So again, I like an exhale on the way up. And an inhale on the way down. But find that path that works well for you, especially as we go overhead. Let's try to keep those shoulders away from the ears. Keep the back of that neck nice and long. This is a really nice compound movement here, and I like it lying down because it does allow you to have that support from the floor. Let's do 3 more, shall we? Really working into the tops of those shoulders, but also, you know, pressing is interesting because it's not a pull, right? It's a push, but I want you to think about using those bottom armpit muscles to help push the shoulder blade a little bit, right? So it's not just the hands that are moving up, the shoulder blade has to swivel slightly towards the front of that armpit to help you get into that position. I think this is our last one. Make it pretty and draw it back down. All right, you can release that band. We are done for the afternoon, evening, morning, whenever you're working out. We're gonna take one stretch here, okay? So come onto your elbows, all right? Just reclining behind yourself, or you can come onto your hand if you would like a little bit more support, all right? Yeah, if you're on your hands, fingertips are facing away from your butt, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you to really think about pushing your chest open here, okay? And then all you're gonna do is you're gonna draw your elbows together, all right? So from the back, Okay? I'm just thinking about, and it's not a big movement, I'm just thinking about pulling the elbows together and narrowing the space between those two arm bones, all right? And this should feel like just the craziest, biggest chest stretch you've ever had for only 1 inch of movement. And then you can release it a little bit. And then think about rolling the shoulders back and pulling the elbows together. And then release it a little bit. Exhale as you actively pull and push the chest open. Inhale as you release. Last time, push that chest open. And release. Go ahead and come all the way up to a comfortable seated position. We're gonna do a little neck release, all right? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna draw your head up towards the sky, okay? And from here, you're gonna open and close your jaw. And then bring your head back once you've done about 3. So my coach called this the baby bird, okay? So you're thinking about putting your head back there and then opening, closing your mouth like you really want someone to feed you. So draw the head back, open, close, open, close, and then pull the head back up to center, all right? Releasing some of that tension we might have in the jaw and into this big muscle that wraps around the front of the neck. Let's do one more. Open, 2, and 3. Draw it back to center. Let's just do one counter stretch. So drop that chin towards the chest. Draw back up. Everyone think about tucking that chin just a little bit. Stay long through the back of your neck for the rest of the day, and you are done. All right, Kingsley, thank you for joining us. And as always, guys, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop a line in the comments box. I will see you all next week.